In this video, we're going to talk about what the job of a bridge is, and we're going to go through a bit of a checklist of things to make sure our bridge is accomplishing. So first, let's start with the job the bridge has that it shares with the first and second verse. So if you've been watching the series, you will have already heard this, and that is that the bridge really needs to recontextualize the chorus. What I mean by recontextualizing the chorus is it needs to add more information or new information that we didn't have before that somewhat deepens the meaning of the chorus, so that the next time we hear the chorus, it hits a little bit differently than it did before. The easy way to think of this is really any time you have the next chorus, you need to make sure that that chorus hits a little bit differently and has a little bit more context behind it and has a deeper meaning behind it and maybe even a more complex meaning behind it for each time the chorus comes back. And the great way to do that is make sure the first verse changes things, the second verse changes things, and the bridge changes things. An easy way to think through sort of what I'm talking about here is, let's say we start with the information of "I killed a man." In the bridge, you learn that the character that said "I killed a man" is actually somebody who is in the military, right? Now, all of a sudden, it has a whole different context because now it's something that maybe was a part of just being in war, right? They're not a murderer. They're not somebody who just murdered somebody in cold blood. They were in war. They've seen horrible things, but they did it in service to our country. So now it has a whole different context to it than it did before. This is an example of what I'm talking about, of new information that sort of changes the meaning of things or sort of deepens the meaning of whatever the chorus might be talking about. Another job of the bridge is really to be a change of pace compared to the chorus. So often if your chorus is absolutely massive and it's really epic sounding, a bridge might be a really good time to actually be really small at first, right? You might want your chorus to end on an epic note and then crash down into a bridge that's really small, and it grows throughout the bridge until it gets back to the chorus. Or maybe if the chorus was really driving and moving forward, you want the bridge to be something that feels like it slows down musically. Or maybe if your chorus has more of a relaxed feel and it has longer held notes, you want your bridge to be more staccato and be a little bit more driving and to have shorter notes and to be more aggressive sounding. The bridge is really a great place to change up your melody and do something really different with it that you haven't done yet. So if you have mostly faster paced melodies throughout the song, maybe it's a good time to slow it down. If you have more legato, maybe it's time to go staccato, or the other way around. If you have a lot of high notes throughout your song, maybe this is the time to bring it down and sing more in your baritone range or in your alto range. Or if the rest of your song wasn't very high, maybe the great place to belt those high notes might be the bridge. Overall, think of the bridge musically, not lyrically. We're going to cover lyrically in a little bit, but only musically. Think of it as sort of a change of pace episode of a TV show. It's the episode of a TV show that maybe instead of following the main story and the main characters, it takes a side character and does a deep dive into their backstory. Maybe it takes a deep dive into the villain and the whole episode centers around the villain and the heroes aren't even in it, and it sort of shows you the villain's perspective or something. That's sort of musically what your bridge can and often should do, is really be that change of pace, that different thing that hasn't quite come up yet, because you already have the pattern, right? A verse, chorus, bridge is the change up chorus. Another way to look at this is sort of the change of pace running back if you're into football. The idea of, like, you have the one running back that's really big and delivers punishing hits on the defense and tires them out, and then you bring the running back in who's really fast. So now the defense is tired, they've been hit a lot, they don't really want to tackle, and now that elusive running back that's really fast can avoid the tackle and then run all the way for the touchdown. That's kind of the idea of the change of pace back, but that's definitely the idea of the bridge. This is a great place to have a significant musical departure from the rest of your song. So we talked about the bridge being musically a change of pace episode, or change of pace running back, whatever analogy you prefer. But I said that lyrically it's something different. And lyrically it's actually the part that finishes up the story most of the time. So your chorus usually doesn't contain much or any story. A chorus tends to be more universal, and a chorus tends to center more on ideas and themes than it does the actual story. So the actual story tends to be told in the verses and in the bridge. So if we take the most standard song structure of all, which is verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, if you think about it, really you have the chorus, that's that central theme that we keep returning to, and then you have the first verse, second verse, and bridge. So if you think of it sort of like a trilogy that they all need to come together to tell this one story, the bridge is really your chance to wrap up the story. And it's the finale of the story, because usually you're going to have the chorus, and then you're going to have the bridge to tell that last bit of the story, and then it's just one more chorus and the end of the song, or maybe several more choruses and the end of the song. But usually the last piece of story we get will be the last line of the bridge. So sort of as a bonus tip here, make sure that your last lines of your bridge are something that will really hit hard, because this is your last chance to make a point or say something story-wise within the context of most songs. So make sure you make the most of those last lines. And thinking of this another way, even though the chorus is overall the climax of your song in its entirety, the bridge is really the climax of the story of your song very often, right? Because the story of your song isn't really contained in the chorus generally, but the chorus is the overall highlight of the song with its central ideas, themes, and overall emotions. But when it comes to the story or the trilogy that you're telling within your 2 verses and your bridge, really the emotional high point, the main climax or conflict in the story is probably going to come to a head in the bridge. And the last thing I want to cover about the jobs of a bridge are that the bridge overall is something you should think of as the X factor of your song. So we all know that the chorus realistically is almost definitely and basically undeniably the most important part of a song. We also all know that the first verse is important, because we might not even get to the chorus, or people might already turn it off before it gets to the chorus if the first verse doesn't set up the song well. But the bridge being sort of the place to wrap up the story, and also the main area of the song where you really have an opportunity to change it up musically and story-wise, is a great place to actually make your song so much better. It's really a section that, sure, you can phone in the bridge, and then the bridge sort of operates as the like, oh, it's just a different section to wait until the chorus comes back. Or you can take advantage of how amazing bridges can be, and you can write a really killer bridge. Maybe it has a huge plot twist in it that changes everything. Maybe just musically it's absolutely killer, and it's not a bridge that feels kind of disappointing and just like it's waiting to go back into a chorus. But if you spend some extra time on making sure the bridge is something that really crushes it, that can be something that adds a ton to your song, because most songs have kind of meh bridges that are kind of just places that you stay for a little bit before getting back to the chorus. But if you can make the bridge a section that is really cool and really intriguing before going back into that final chorus, so that the last bit of story people get is actually very interesting and something that makes them be like, huh, I kind of want to listen to that song again. That is a great way to look at your bridge, as an opportunity. Since it wraps up the story, it's an opportunity, right? You want to end the story in the way that, say, Inception ends, where everybody's just talking about, like, was the top gonna fall over? Was it not gonna fall over? And now people are talking about it forever. The bridge is really your song opportunity to sort of do that type of thing. So I hope this video was helpful to you. If it was, you probably will also find my 6-step lyric writing checklist helpful. Link will be in the description down below. But really, lyric writing is one of the hardest parts of songwriting for a lot of songwriters. And I think there's several reasons for this. One is that we tend to be musicians first and foremost, and we sort of learn lyric writing and poetry on an as-needed basis because we want to write songs. Some of us certainly learn to fall in love with lyrics more than others, but I think we all want to be proud of our lyrics. But the reality is we started as musicians first and foremost. Overwhelmingly, there are certainly some of you that started as poets first and foremost and then learned music. But a lot of us really started from the musical side of things, so it makes sense that music comes more naturally to us than maybe the lyrics do. But I think the other more important and really main reason that we struggle with lyrics is we try to do too much at the same time. We stare at a blank page and say to ourselves, time to write lyrics, and we actually expect ourselves to write a decent lyric off the top of our head, which is basically word improvisation, right? So we expect that, and then we expect it to also have a rhyme scheme right away, and to have a rhythm to it right away, and the syllables to line up, right? We expect ourselves to just write lyrics. which is something that is incredibly hard to do and we just shouldn't expect from ourselves. Instead, we should break the process down into 6 different steps that are all sort of baby steps. They're all easy to accomplish on their own, and they take you from one step to the next so that you can be more efficient in your songwriting, so that your songwriting can be a more fun experience and a less irritating, annoying, and difficult process. And most importantly, so your results can be better, because I like my lyrics to pass what I like to call the frame test. The idea of the frame test is if you print out your lyrics, put it in a frame and put it on a wall, do the lyrics hold up? Are the lyrics really good just as poetry? Because the reality is that cool guitars and an interesting piano riff and a really good singer and a melody that's interesting can all cover up the fact that the lyrics that are in the song might not really be that good. But we don't want our music to cover up our lyrics. We want our lyrics and our music to come together and both shine together. Because if we can make both really good, that's the best way to write absolutely killer songs. And the best way to write killer songs is to make sure that both our music is killer and our lyrics are killer. And a great way to make sure our lyrics are killer are to make sure that they stand up against poetry and that they actually could pass as poetry and would look decent on the wall. So like, sorry to songs like WAP, but like, if that was on somebody's wall, you'd be like, what the heck is that? Really? Did like a 15-year-old write this? Actually, that would be generous. That would be generous. Nothing to be proud of, nothing that should ever go up on anybody's wall in many senses. But beyond that, right, like the idea here is we want to take pride in our lyrics. So if you want to have better lyrics, if you want to make the lyric writing process more fun and have better results, be sure to check out that free guide. Link in the description down below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you, and I'll talk to you in the next one.